NCERT textbook revisions and politics go hand in hand. But something has changed this time. Well, what exactly has happened? What are the proposals that have been submitted to the NCERT or to the Education Ministry? To answer all these questions, we have with us my colleague Sourav Barman. Sourav, welcome to ThePrint. I am Neelam Pandey, and today in this special episode we will discuss what are the changes that have been suggested by, say, the Election Commission or the subcommittees of the NCERT to the Education Ministry, and why these changes are so important, and whether these changes can take place in this year or the next year, or will we have to wait for at least 5 years when a major revision of NCERT textbooks is undertaken. Well, Sourav, this is your story that we are discussing today. The Election Commission has said that, there are factual inaccuracies, there are factual mistakes that it wants the NCERT to correct in its social science textbook. It also says that these books fail to sort of prepare students for making the word is used is ethical ballot decisions. It fails to prepare them for making ethical ballot decisions. What exactly is this story about, and why these suggestions have been sent from the Election Commission to the NCERT?
The Election Commission and the Ministry of Education, which was earlier the Ministry of Human Resources Development,
right,
we have been in touch since 2016. So there has been a series of exchanges, correspondence between the two bodies since 2016.
Right.
And the Election Commission feels that the current set of NCERT textbooks, particularly the ones on social science, the textbooks have very limited content on electoral literacy. So students are not getting really aware about how elections are held, how exactly elections are held, the role played by various bodies, what exactly is the role of the Election Commission, who are presiding officers, what exactly is an EVM, what exactly is a VVPAT, and the role played by political parties, etc. And overall, the Election Commission feels when students go out of school and they attain the age of voting, they should be prepared to make ethical ballot decisions. They should be prepared to participate in the electoral process. So for that, the social science books needs to be, there has to be revision in those books. And the Commission also feels there are factual mistakes, there are gaps, and many other infirmities. They use those terms, so they have basically combined all these proposals, and they've sent it to the ministry,
right,
in an updated form last year in 2022.
So I would like to just, for our viewers, I would like to read out something from your story, and I just wanted to understand, all these issues are fine, that the Election Commission is saying that a student should know about voting rights, about the EVM, the electronic voting machine, but why is it asking them to make certain changes, let's say about popular struggles and movements? Is it something that comes under that ambit?
No, that is a question that the Election Commission, will have to answer. And if you go through the entire proposal of the Election Commission,
right,
of which we have a copy, there is no mention of whether the ECI has actually consulted academics or experts who would know better about these changes, what to be taught, what not to be taught. So, for example, the one you pointed out, that textbooks should not have, more emphasis on currently
conflict.
The textbooks have more emphasis on conflicts and agitations, popular movements. Instead, you should also have more focus on preparing
right,
the future citizens. So the question can be, how do you prepare future citizens without introducing students to popular movements, agitations, and protests?
Right. So right now the proposal has gone from the Election Commission to the Education Ministry, and then they will take a call on whether to make these changes or not, or are these changes, they have already been implemented?
So technically, the Ministry of Education has set up a committee. It notified a committee in 2021. It is a 12-member steering committee headed by former Chairman of ISRO, Dr. K. Kasturi Rangan, and that committee will be the final authority on these issues. The Election Commission has also sent its proposal to that committee, apart
right,
from the Ministry of Education.
Well, this is not the only story that you have done on curriculum revision. There was another story which was done by you, which was followed by the national media, or the print media. You talked about how one of the committee members had said that we should change the name of India to Bharat in the NCERT textbook. Can you explain to our viewers what exactly was this proposal and where it stands today?
So for that, maybe we need to give some context.
Right.
So basically, the Modi government has already undertaken a major exercise to revise the NCERT textbooks. How that is happening? So there is a committee, as I mentioned, under Dr. K. Kasturirangan, and there are subcommittees. There are 25 subcommittees under that committee at the national level.
Right.
And even at the level of all the states, there are 25 committees each. For example, there are 25 committees in UP, 25 in MP, and every state and every UT has set up 25 committees. What are these committees? So you will have committees on social science, you have committees on education, you have committees on English,
all
language,
the languages,
maths,
yeah.
every possible area. And now those committees held deliberations among themselves. The committees are essentially made up of academics, former professors, current serving professors. So this particular committee, the one which recommended that the country's name should be Bharat in textbooks instead of India, that committee was the Committee on Social Sciences.
Okay.
The Committee on Social Sciences at the national level. Out of the 25 committees, there is one on social sciences. And that was headed by retired Professor C.I. Isaac. He also happens to be an RSS ideologue. So that particular committee suggested that teach the country's name as Bharat in textbooks instead of India, and a bunch of other suggestions. But that became slightly controversial because it became a political issue.
But where is that proposal at this juncture?
Now NCERT subsequently issued a statement saying this is just a recommendation after all, and we haven't taken any call. It's too premature because the exercise is still underway. It's not final.
Well, in our constitution, we use the name India as well as Bharat anyway.
Yes.
At the same time, you also talked about that various states had also shared inputs on what they want in the NCERT textbooks, because NCERT textbooks are used across India.
Right.
So it is important for these states also to tell us what exactly they feel should be in the textbook. So could you explain something about that also?
Yes, like I mentioned, there are subcommittees at the level of the states also. So what NCERT calls it a bottom-up approach.
Right.
So according to NCERT, they are taking inputs from the states, they are taking inputs from the national subgroups, and the final authority would be the Kasturirangan committee, which is supposed to function autonomously, independently. So now all these states, when we managed to access all the inputs from the states,
okay,
and we found that particularly in the area of social science and what NCERT calls knowledge of India, under that category, many states, shared certain suggestions, which we are not sitting on judgment, but they, for example, Uttar Pradesh suggested that children should be taught about the 4th century Vaimanik Shastra, how ancient India had invisible planes.
Right.
Now, Haryana suggested that apart from the fact that Dalton is considered the father of atomic theory, we should also teach students that Rishi Kanad was actually the father of atomic theory, and students should be capable enough to analyze the mistakes of the past that led to Mughal invasion in India and the colonial takeover. And Gujarat, for example, suggested that children should know that astrology and astronomy are both sides of the same coin. But you also had pushback. For example, Andhra Pradesh suggested, it observed that you cannot really teach superstition in the name of antiquity. And Bihar, for example, wrote that you need to be very critical when you evaluate the past.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is not the first time that these suggestions have come. If we look at the entire, as I said, the education ministry, which was earlier known as the HRD ministry, this is not the first time that such a controversy has been created over, let's say, renaming India as Bharat. In the past also, as far as Mughal invasion is concerned, on how much of that history should be taught, that is also something that became an issue.
That happened during COVID.
Right.
So during COVID, NCERT undertook a parallel exercise in the name. They wanted to rationalization. So what they wanted to reduce the burden on students because there were learning disruptions due to the pandemic.
Right.
So they reduced a lot of content. The name of reducing content, so they essentially spiked chapters, they dropped chapters, they removed passages, and that became slightly controversial, hugely controversial for that matter, because all references to Gujarat riots in NCERT textbooks were completely removed. The role
I
of
believe one of the changes was also that rather than calling it anti-Muslim Gujarat riots, it became Gujarat riots. Only.
that became that
was
happened way back,
earlier.
earlier
Yes,
under
yes.
Prakash Javadekar, and in the case of assassination of Mahatma Gandhi, the role of Hindu extremists, the references to Hindu extremists, that was removed, and certain other deletions were made.
Well, the opposition has always accused, the Bharatiya Janata Party government of, making such changes to textbooks. I mean, this is not the first time that it's happening. Since 2014 till 2019, we've had many controversies. Even during Atal Bihari Vajpayee's government, this entire, I would say, the rationalization of books or making revision to books, that is something that had also started during that time. So do you think, in 2024, now we are moving towards the 2024 elections, do you think there will be more such suggestions from, RSS linked organizations or these committees, or will there be an attempt to make at least some changes now before the 2024 elections?
So now the current exercise has to be wrapped up before by it is, the new set of textbooks is supposed to hit the market in the next academic session.
Right.
So that is the deadline that NCERT has set for the Kasturi Rangan committee. So they are supposed to wind up their work by then, and they have also notified separate textbook development committees.
Right.
So they are supposed to work on developing new textbooks based on their recommendations. But as we pointed out, it has happened in the past also. Every time there has been syllabus revision in India,
whichever government
there was
also.
controversy. It has always been politically very contested. It happened in 2000. It happened under Atal Bihari Vajpayee when Murli Manohar Joshi was the HRD minister. Then after the Congress came to power, they decided to overturn all those suggestions, all those changes, and they set up new committees. Textbooks were again revised within a span of 5 years. Textbooks were completely revised twice, and the Vajpayee government had drawn charges of saffronization. They were allegedly trying to saffronize textbooks, and all that happened. Well, on the other hand, the BJP alleges that the current set of textbooks need to be revised because of the kind of experts who were consulted had certain ideological leanings, leftist leanings. Yeah.
So all these changes will we see mostly in social science textbooks,
No,
or will
all
it be across?
subjects. Across.
So the committees have been formed for all the subjects.
Yeah. Naturally, the changes in social science will draw more attention because that is where ideology becomes a factor.
Right. So as I said, these are NCERT textbooks. So across India, the syllabus that is used, do we rely only on NCERT textbooks in schools, or states have the authority to use some other books? How is it?
States are completely free to follow their own textbooks. Education comes under the concurrent list, and so NCERT textbooks are essentially taught in CBSE. But many states, almost every state actually they have adopted the NCERT textbooks also. Nearly every state. But states are free to develop their own textbooks. But NCERT textbooks are seen as the benchmark, which is why most states end up adopting the NCERT textbooks.
And which is why the focus and the controversies regarding the revision. But you will keep an eye on all the latest revisions that will take place, and you will update our viewers about it. Thank you so much for explaining what all is happening in the arena of education and what changes we can expect as far as the NCERT textbooks are concerned. Thank you so much for watching.